And we have radar indicated. We have no ground truth. And look at, just as I'm speaking there, you could see that rotation tracker diminishing its presentation. So perhaps that's weakening. Let's focus on where we've seen tornado activity confirmed on the ground, not radar indicated. And that's in the western suburbs. You can see the 290 area near Itasca and Route 53. Now we're coming up on O'Hare. Can we let's steer that O'Hare camera to the south and west, and we'll get an idea if we can visually confirm some of what we're seeing here. So that rotation continues to show up there near Elk Grove Village. And now, boy, Pete, look at this. You know, there's the O'Hare camera. There's something cooking back in there, but boy, that's tough to see. And look how the bases have come up somewhat.
Yeah, that is a little bit better of a picture as far as what we're seeing, but that does not necessarily mean that we're in the woods because of the rotation that's out in front of you there, Brant. We're still seeing plenty of rotation out of the line that continues to move its way on toward O'Hare Airport. You can see those darker shades on the right side of the screen there. That's where we're seeing some rain falling. Looking due west there, you can see a little bit of daylight, but then as we pan and go a little bit further south here, again, we're looking at likely some rain that's there. And this is where we're also seeing that rotation. Right now it's around Addison and into Lombard as well, headed toward Elmhurst, Bensonville. Those are the areas that are in the warning box right now. But as I said before, if you live to the east of that warning box, this is the third separate warning. It has been updated as this line has moved its way on through, and the rotation that we're seeing right here, right along this line, has been strong enough throughout that it has prompted the continuation of the tornado warnings. So again, if you're east, there's the Tri-State Tollway right here. If you're east of the tollway, take cover right now because this cell is headed toward you, and it's better safe than sorry.
Get into that safe place.
Yes, exactly.
And, you know, we haven't heard, let's effect to contact Mike Lorber in Storm Chaser because he is working on damage. He has his ear to the ground, and I don't know anyone that does a better job of ferreting out that information than Mike Lorber. So he's collecting damage reports he'll share with us, and he was on the backside of the storm coming back in on I-90. Here's where we stand right now. If you're anywhere near the Tri-State Tollway, there's O'Hare, Mount Prospect. Don't fool around with this thing. We've had multiple confirmed tornado warnings. This thing went all the way back to the Fox River. And so we've had a tornado on the ground. So this has been progressing eastward at around 33 miles per hour. So this is nothing to fool with at all. And we're getting into the latter part of the afternoon, early evening. Even though it's still daylight, there's heavy rainfall around these things. And you may not see a tornado. And don't think of these as being those big, you know, scary wedge-shaped things you see in Oklahoma. This could be a small circulation, a small vortex. And the danger is not necessarily that the tornado is going to hit you. It could be some of the debris that's kicked up. And already the National Weather Service on that Stickney tornado that pushed out into Lake Michigan and dissipated, that was detected by one of the terminal Doppler radars that's looking for wind shear for aircraft landing and taking off at O'Hare and Midway. They saw some debris. Okay, we're about to pick up a new warning, and this is going to take that tornado warning all the way to the lakefront. So if you're watching us, you're about to, and you're anywhere in this area, you're about to hear your telephone go off and tell you that there is a new active tornado warning. That's going to stretch from just west of the Tri-State Tollway and O'Hare, and that's going to run all the way to the lakefront. And if you're out west, you still see that box flashing near Bartlett and Bloomingdale. You're on the back end of this thing. The tornado threat is not there, although if there were lightning, some of those lightning strikes could hit you well behind the front. But look what we're seeing. We're only seeing 9 lightning strikes. Again, these are low-topped, high-shear thunderstorms. We're waiting on that warning. You don't have to wait for the warning. If you're anywhere in this area, from Des Plaines to Lincolnwood to Norridge to Elmwood Park to the north side of Chicago, if you're in Rogers Park, get into your safe place. This is headed toward you. And as Pete pointed out, this isn't just one circulation. There are multiple vortices in here that we're seeing rotation. So it may not be that big movie-type tornado that comes towards you. And so again, Pete, this is like waiting. We know it's coming.
And a lot of this too is the reason why we're seeing the warning and we're going to see the new one is almost based on history. This has already produced a tornado, and as you can see, we're still seeing the signatures in place for a continuation of that tornado warning. So eventually it's going to extend all the way to the lakefront as far as this line of showers and thunderstorms are concerned. And also keeping an eye really quick on that storm cell that's up in McHenry County because that warning is about to expire, and I don't think it's going to be continued. Just to let you know what's going on up near Long Grove, Vernon Hills, likely seeing some heavy rain along I-94 there. But from what I'm looking at, it's the likelihood of that continuing is very, very low. However, Elk Grove Village, Bensonville, Addison, that's where we're seeing the rotation. And so Des Plaines, Park Ridge, Norridge, Franklin Park, Elmwood Park, and points eastward. Now's your time. This is what we call our call to action. This is when we really want you to take precaution because now you've got the opportunity, you've got the time to go to that safe spot and do it safely and be prepared for whatever comes your way. And so, we want to make sure that you stay safe. There's pretty strong rotation right now showing up along the Jane Addams, headed toward Rosemont here. And that image that you're seeing right there, that's looking looks like due east or due west rather.
Joey, can you pan to the right quickly there?
Yeah, that's from O'Hare Airport. There goes the warning signal. So yeah, now you can see on the map right here that tornado warning has been populated here, going all the way to the lakefront, and it will continue until 7:45. Yeah, look at the clouds hanging down, very low from that.
Look at the circulation, Pete.
Yep, you can see it.
You can clearly see the mesocyclone, and you can see some of those little scud clouds there that might be mistaken.
Yeah, in the foreground of this picture, you can see the clouds basically moving from left to right, and then those bases down, those scud clouds off to the distance, it's kind of tough to pick up, but they are moving slowly from right to left. So we are seeing this is a very broad-based circulation here, but again, an indication of the circulation that's in the atmosphere, Pete, and at any time we could see something drop.
Pete, look at that stuff on the left-hand side of the screen. That may not be scud. Look at that. Look how the circulation's tightening up right there.
Check it. Yep.
See that?
Yeah. See it right on the left side there. It's kind of lowering down right through where we're seeing the clearing, if you will.
All right. I'll kind of march in here.
Yeah. There you go.
Let me use my hulking frame to describe this. There we go. All right. Right in here.
That's the spot. Yes.
We're looking at this.
Yep.
Okay. I've got to silence my phone.
So yeah, that's the rotation, and that correlates fairly well with what we've been seeing on radar and what we've been seeing as far as other metrics go. Yeah, there's looking at the velocities here. There is very, very strong rotation associated with this, and it appears to be, at the moment, it appears to be tightening up just a little bit.
Joey, can you pan a little bit closer to the left? Let's look over here a little bit and see if we see something. It's tough to see it, but it looks like right in Pete. This is almost too difficult to see if there's anything in there, but you certainly see the circulation. You can see this rotating here.
You could see again. It's a very broad based, but when we see the broad based stuff. That is an indication. That's one of the warning signs for things that potentially tighten up, and we've already seen that on numerous occasions, particularly with this cell.
Look at this guy really starting to rain itself out right here. Look at this. Look at the rain shaft underneath this. If I'm seeing that correctly. So that's where we stand at this point. Let's broaden out once again. Let's bring you up to speed, and we'll stop geeking out here looking at this. We're here to keep you safe, and the reason that we're in continuous coverage is because we have had confirmed tornadoes on the ground in the Chicago viewing area. They stretched. Right there? Okay. Let's zoom in on this, Joey. Can you pan? Okay. All right. Let's just.
There,
Pete,
yes.
Look at this.
Look.
Right here.
Right. Yep. Right there. See it? See it spinning up?
Yep.
That's it. Yeah.
That's it.
Look at that spinning up there. Right
there.
in front of you. And look at how on the southern flank of that, we're seeing that lower as well. So we might be looking at the genesis of a tornado right here.
Right.
Look at that. That's pretty amazing what we're looking at right there, Brad.
Stay with that image. In fact, I'm going to get myself out of the image so you can really see what's going on there. You get the scope of what's happening. Right there in the left center, you can see the counterclockwise circulation.
Yep, looking at some radar returns. I want you to stick with this, but looking at some radar returns that's correlating with a hook that's showing up on the radar right now as well, Brant. And this is the fact that we're seeing the clearing just to the south of this is not unsurprising of tornadic development here either.
So you're on the back side of the rotation, and this is coming right up over Rosemont. In fact, what we're looking at in the foreground, you can see a couple of the towers. You see the hotels there in Rosemont, and that circulation is rather broad. Did you see the lightning strike there, Pete?
Yep. I'm wondering, I want to stay with this picture, but it would be interesting to see if we have any debris showing up on the debris detector here because of the lift that we saw. We actually witnessed the moisture moving upward, and we're continuing to see that. And I'm wondering, it doesn't look as though we have any sort of debris signature on that, but it wouldn't be surprising if we did.
No, I'm hearing, Pete, no debris signature.
Okay.
And something we should talk about, you mentioned artificial intelligence, that some of these computer algorithms look at the radar information and assess what they think is happening. For example, the tornado vortex signature. But what we're seeing now is that, hang on, let me turn off my phone once again. It's going crazy on me. But what we're seeing here is this information also could trip off a new product that we have that shows a debris tracker, and we're not seeing that at all. So that's some good news. Now, let's talk safety once again. If you're in Rosemont, you should be in your safe place at this point. We're panning a little bit to the north, and you're seeing that circulation moving off to the northeast. Let's go back to the radar information and give you an idea. We'll keep this, Kevin. We do a double box here and show you what's going on, where the actual signature is. And there is that rotation. Now, when you look at this, you can see what's happening. Pete, if you'd show us right there where that circulation is.
I moved off camera so that I could take a closer look at the clouds there. But again, here's the rotation from our rotation detector. However, I think we're seeing a little bit more of the signature that we want to see, if you will, in order for tornadic development. We're seeing that a lot closer and a lot more with radar information because, again, we don't have very high cloud tops, but we certainly do have the rotation in the lower levels where this is being detected here as far as the tornadic activity continues. So we have that tornado warning until 7:45 for the activity that you can see on the camera there. And here's the rotation right there. But again, what has been showing up a little bit better as far as the showing this has been a hook echo, and this is also too proven to be a precursor to tornadic development. Here we go. Here's our hook echo right here. It's rather broad-based circulation here, considering what we're seeing on the camera here, but still rotation nonetheless, and it's enough so, plus we have the confirmation that we've been seeing from the camera there that we continue to have that tornado warning in place until 7:45. But yeah, Brant, we're seeing some amazing pictures out of this.
You know, and Pete, what you're showing there, where that hook echo is what we saw when we saw that rotation circulating. Technical name,
right here.
Yeah. That's what we were looking at, and you could see a little bit of debris being lofted there, but again, not enough to indicate that we were seeing, from Doppler radar's perspective, any difference in particles that would indicate that there's a lot of debris aloft. So that cell continues to move to the north and east. It looks like And again, I'm from my perspective, looking back at your stuff, it looks like that circulation could be weakening. What do you think?
It looks. The scan that was there 5 minutes ago, and that's about how long it takes for the Doppler radar to make all of its scans, get all of the information, process it, and get it to us, approximately 5 minutes. The one previous showed a little bit more significant hook echo that was in there. This does look like it's a little bit more broadly diffused, but boy, I still can't get over the images that we saw just a few minutes ago, Brant. That was some very impressive rotation, especially the moisture that we saw lifting up into the cloud. That was amazing to see, to witness. Fortunately, it makes it all the more amazing because we don't have a tornado touching down. Again, we still have a tornado warning that's in effect until 7:45, and now you can see that circulation here. Sometimes you can see kind of a pinwheel in the opposite direction. I don't know that we're looking at spinners in quite that regard. Sometimes they do spin in the counterclockwise or clockwise motion, rather, but I don't know that we're looking at that just from what we had seen earlier on the radar and with the clouds.
And Pete, let's talk safety here. If you're at the lakefront, look how fast this whole line is pushing to the east, moving right toward the lakefront. So some heavy rainfall. You see this flashing box that's in front of Pete right there.
Right here.
That indicates the tornado warning. It's pushed past that. Here's the New Trier camera. This is on the roof of New Trier High School, and we're looking off toward in Winnetka. In what direction are we looking with? How is this? We're looking south, and unremarkable. You really can't see a whole lot going on other than the fact that it's just raining out there. And
it looks like some flashing, too, from some lightning.
You know what? And again, if there is a spin up here, it is rain-wrapped. You can't see it. And it doesn't have to be some big movie-type tornado to cause damage. So again, rain-wrapped significance. We'll pan that camera around from the Trier. And again, where is that located? That's in northern Cook County, where you're right there, Pete. As we're doing this, we're looking and assessing and hearing stuff in our ears to keep you safe.
And we still have a tornado warning in place. I don't want to diminish that at all, but it looks like we're looking at the winds becoming a little bit more unidirectional or in one direction as opposed to the rotation. But again, here's where we saw that rotation earlier, and so we continue to have this severe thunder or this tornado warning in place. Very heavy rain is headed for the lakefront here, and that area of rain continues on to the south as well. But because we've seen these discrete cells, this is the reason why we've seen the numerous tornado warnings and numerous tornado touchdowns this evening. So you could see, again, where we're especially seeing these shades of red, likely looking at rainfall rates of 2 to perhaps 3 inches an hour. But here's rotation here, just east of Niles. Again, that's the rotation that we saw earlier on the camera, looking a little bit further south near Bellwood and headed toward Oak Park. That's where we've seen some decent rotation too. And just taking a look at, again, the velocities here, there is a little bit of an inflow notch just to the south there. It is not particularly strong. Again, broad-based. And when I say broad-based, that means it's covering a larger area than what we would typically see for a tornado. It's rotation within the cloud, but not necessarily enough where it's tight to spin up a tornado.
You know, Pete, one of the things that I always envision in my head is an ice skater. You know, for an ice skater to increase their angular momentum or their speed, you'll see an ice skater pull their arms in, and you'll see them increase their speed.
The conservation of angular momentum, the smaller an object, the faster it will spin.
That's the science teacher that Pete is. But that's what's happening. So you'll see a skater, when they try to increase their angular momentum, they'll tuck in, and that's what sometimes these storms do. You'll see a broad rotation, and then they'll get enough development that they'll pull their arms in and really spin up. Opposite can happen too. They can go from a tight rotation to more relaxed, and when we say broad rotation, that's what we mean, that they don't have the punch or the potential that they may have had before. And again, we're looking at an active tornado warning. This is now for Cook County, and it stretches all the way to the Chicago lakefront. Again, we're not seeing a whole lot of lightning strikes. Look at this, only 2 behind my head. Okay, okay. I'm just hearing in my ear from our producer, Joey, that we have confirmed damage, warehouses on the west side of O'Hare. Pete, what we had live on our camera there, that debris that you saw being lofted was potentially from that touchdown.
Sure.
And causing that damage west of O'Hare. So we actually saw visually, instead of electronically, that tornado near O'Hare. That's the same thunderstorm cell that's producing this active tornado warning that you see now that stretches out toward the lakefront. And we'll continue to monitor this. So don't let your guard down. If you're in northern Cook County, everywhere from the city of Chicago up to Evanston, this cell is moving off, or cells, moving out into Lake Michigan. Pretty good clip, around 33 miles per hour. Let's do an overview once again. If you're just joining us, we've been in continuous coverage here on NBC because we have confirmed tornadoes on the ground. Now, I mentioned earlier, let's broaden out even wider than that a little bit to give you the all clear. If you're out in the western counties, it's over. The threat is gone. And even in the Elgin area, technically we still are holding on to the tornado watch there, but the activity is pushed eastward. South counties, we haven't seen much going on there at all, but we are seeing, Pete, look at this. Right in here is an outflow boundary.
Yep.
Let's see what happens when that pushes off to the south and east. Will it touch more activity and create activity across Will County? But at this point, we have active tornado warnings right in the center of Cook County. As I was just informed, we have confirmed damage to warehouses near O'Hare. We've had multiple tornadoes, and we have multiple reports of damage around the area. We have teams out assessing this. Mike Lorber has been in Storm Chaser 5. His ear is to the ground. There's nobody better at determining what's been going on in the city. Mike will share that. We will have complete coverage tonight, especially on the NBC 5 News at 10 o'clock. But here's where we stand right now. Let's get closer here once again. And Pete's been following this thunderstorm, and it's been pushing out into Lake Michigan. We have a couple of warnings. The one you see here in the back is this is expired at this point. We have this overlapping information. This is the one that's of concern, and that is valid until 7:45 for about another 30 minutes. But as we've seen with all of these this evening, they have had a tendency to be moving so quickly that they outrun the projected polygon of their danger. So the motion has been east at around 33, some of these close to 40 miles per hour. So straight line wind damage is also possible. It doesn't have to be a tornado to uproot trees, to damage structures, to take roofing materials off. So we'll continue to monitor that situation. Here's where we stand at this point. This is the only active warning we have at this point, and that's a tornado warning for Cook County. And there's Lincolnwood, and we're looking at these areas of shear. And as Pete pointed out, there can be these little notches in here, these little nuances where we have inflow notches that could be a precursor to show where there's some rotation setting up. So don't let your guard down.
Yeah, Brent,
go ahead.
Just looking at velocities there, just north of Oak Park, we're looking at some pretty decent velocities right in here, where we're looking at the potential for at least some broad-based rotation to go along with the heavy rain that is currently falling right now. So that's why the tornado warning continues until 7:45. Right now, no active tornadoes on the ground, but because of the rotation that we currently have and the history of this thing, we started with these tornado warnings before 6 o'clock, and then this one cell in particular, the first warnings came out for Kane County And we've continued to see these warnings move right along, these tornado warnings, in fact, move right along with this particular cell, and it has proven to be tornadic at times. We, again, have confirmed tornadoes in Hodgkin, Streamwood, South Elgin, associated with this line of showers and storms. So you can see the rotation right here near the Belmont-Cragen neighborhood, moving toward Humboldt and Lincoln Park there. We've seen quite a bit of rotation with this, as well as south near Berwyn. So again, it's broad-based, but we have seen quite a few tornadoes spin up along the path of this, at least the ones that have been confirmed. We had the tornadic evening on March 31st or 30th of this year. And Brant, you probably recall this. We had numerous thunderstorm warnings with tornado possible. And by the time it was all said and done, we had 13 tornadoes that touched down that evening. So the fact that we have 3 right now is pretty impressive, but I wouldn't be at all surprised to find out that there were even more once the damage gets assessed. Go ahead, Brant.
Okay, we have no confirmations on the ground at this point. This is some video from Elgin that's behind me. And let me step out of the way. Clearly, Pete, you can see that circulation and little vortices that are ooh, look that.
That looks a little more impressive there.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
Right there.
That's a little more than just a little vortice, but yeah, there, you can see the rotation
right
spinning there.
Wow. Okay, look at that. You can look at that. Look at the really tight circulation there. And I'm looking for debris. I'm not seeing a lot of...
Not seeing any debris, but, with the trees leafed out like you can see there, the trees almost become sails like on a ship.
And look at the...
And they can grab that wind, hold on to it, and even the weakest of tornadoes can produce enough of a strong wind to create some damage.
That was a quick down, and there you see.
But there's that secondary one there that it looks like it's holding on a little while longer. That one looks like the more potent of the two, just visually.
Right there. Look at that, right there. We'll concentrate on this for a little bit. Let's, okay, we have one active warning continues and nothing on the ground. Let's hold off on this for a second. Let's go back to the radar because we really want to keep you safe, and we'll have plenty of time during the NBC 5 News coming up tonight at 10 to really share some incredible pictures. Here's where we stand right now. Once this area of showers pushes out into Lake Michigan, the Illinois portion of our viewing area, especially from interstate it looks like from the Eisenhower northward, the threat is over. It's not over yet. Far south Cook County into northwest Indiana, we could still see something spinning up there, although we have not seen that at this point. The only active warning we have is okay, I'm hearing from our wizard in the back. The shear is there in northwest Indiana, but the vertical development to pull it upward is not. Because here's what we've got something, if you look at the atmosphere from the top down, jet stream, there are pieces of the jet stream that move faster than others. That's why you take an airline flight. It takes longer to go to the West Coast than it does to come back because you've got that fast moving west to east flow in the northern hemisphere. Within that flow, like a river, there could be a faster moving piece of the stream. And within that, or under that, there are a couple of areas that can produce vertical lifting, and that's what's happening here. That's what we're dealing with. We had shear in the lower layers of the atmosphere, and we had what's known as a jet streak, a fast piece of the jet stream going overhead. And my explanation, sometimes, Pete, I think this is an oversimplification. It's like if you're at a cabin in the woods and you had a fireplace and a fire and a strong gust of wind came over the top of the chimney, you'd see the fire roar up. And
yep. That works.
Yeah, that's kind of an oversimplification.
It's getting fed by the oxygen from the room. That oxygen is getting pulled in from the winds that are going over the fireplace flue. So that is certainly a valid explanation. So here's a look at their rotation detector, and just looking at the velocities, this has become a lot more diffused. So we are looking at still some rotation, especially once we get south near Summit there as well. So far, I'm not seeing anything that would warrant a new warning, at least just yet. But we still have some.
If you would concentrate on that a little, we'll keep monitoring that. We're getting reports now from family members and people that we speak with that there is a lot of damage that is going to take some time to assess. We know that in some of the south suburbs that we've got a lot of trees down, perhaps some homes that have been damaged. We've had earlier a report that what we saw live here near O'Hare may have caused damages to some of those warehouses toward Bensonville and west and southwest of O'Hare. And we're continuing to assess what's going on. This is going to be a news night that you're going to want to stay with NBC5 because we have people in the field. We've got Mike Lorber that's out there right now assessing what he can come up with, and we'll affect a conversation with Mike. And so, again, if you see post-storm here, and we still have that active tornado warning that's across the northern portion of Cook County, moving out into Lake Michigan, and we're not seeing anything on the ground at this point. That's radar indicated. But let's talk safety once again. If you see a power line that's down, don't try to cross it. You could be obviously you could be electrocuted. If you got a power problem in the city of Chicago and in Cook County, and the suburbs served by Commonwealth Edison, it's 1-800-EDISON-1. Some of these smart meters that have been installed actually know when you've lost power. So they're on top of it. And then it's NIPSCO across northwest Indiana. Northwest Indiana hasn't been infected yet, but potentially could be. Here's another stronger circulation. Pete, look at this guy.
Yeah.
Same place, isn't it? Right along from Archer Heights to Stickney, where we saw the confirmed turn.
Yeah, well, you know, you can kind of see there where Midway Airport is on the bottom end of the screen there. And so this one, again, is just north, just like that other storm cell took that we had that severe, tornado warning. That one was allowed to be canceled just a little bit early, but we continue to see the strong rotation. And to kind of piggyback on what you were saying earlier, Brad, about the safety, you know, I recall, and you probably recall this too, the night that we had the tornado warnings and the tornadoes touching down in Woodridge and Naperville, we had a lot of curiosity seekers. Don't be one of those people, because this is the time when the emergency crews need to get in there. You don't know if somebody is trapped beneath some debris. The emergency crews want to get in there and help. Emergency crews want to get in there and potentially aid injured victims, or certainly help with the cleanup process as far as those crews go. So you don't want to be that person who's kind of blocking their way and getting in the way. So don't be the curiosity seeker. We're looking south here, I believe, from our camera. Is this, I want to say this is our camera at Guaranteed Rate Field.
It is.
Yeah.
It's looking guaranteed rate. We're looking off to the south and west, and that's where that circulation is.
Yep.
That you're seeing along the Stevenson Expressway. And you can see, we really can't discern what that is, but there is something going on there, whether that is, it could be the rain shaft.
Yeah, it's likely rain wrapped if nothing else.
So again, yeah, and another thing here too, this is where you have to be your own forecaster, Pete. Look how it's outside the warned area.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
As best as you can estimate, and the guys in Romeoville at the Weather Service and the people at the Storm Prediction Center in Norman, Oklahoma, they do an incredible job. These are dedicated people that are here to keep you safe. And they do the best they can do to figure out what the path is and where that storm is going. But this is not an exact science. So saying exactly where that storm is going to progress and how it's going to chew into the atmosphere and how it's going to develop, you have to be your own forecaster. If there's a tornado warning anywhere near you, then know your safe place. Don't fool around. Don't wait to be told where to go for safety. Know where that is. And, you know, sit down with your family. We talk about this all the time. You know, sit around the dinner table. Okay, what do we do as a family if there's a tornado? Where do we go? Where do we go if there's a fire? Where does our family regroup? Who do we talk to? Where do we have our medicines? Where do we have cash? If there's a power outage, there may not be electricity. think in that sort of worst case scenario safety mentality and share that with your family and be prepared. And we'll try to keep you safe on this end. There's that rotation just north of Archer Heights, and Pete and I were talking about this. This is uncanny. This is the same ground that we saw the confirmed Hodgkins tornado. Look at that, just as I speak. Pete, we see the rotation weaken a bit.
Becoming, yeah, a little more. There's a jet streak coming in from the south right here that's trying to kind of force that rotation. But at this point right now, it looks like the upper levels of the atmosphere are not wanting to buy that. But there's still a pretty good wind gust coming in out of the south and east. And again, it's when we have the winds coming in one direction and the winds in another, that's what gives it the spin. And then we have the winds aloft that help give it the lift that we need in order for tornadoes to form. We've seen that live from our camera at O'Hare Airport. We've seen that in the video from Elgin as well. So we're continuing to see rotation here. And yeah, we've got the warning box here until 7:45 going right along into the lakefront. But we're still seeing some strong rotation just to the south. So these storms are constantly evolving. This is not a static image that we're looking at. Even though right now it's not moving, we know that the storm cell is moving. And as a result of that, it comes in contact with new environments that might not have been hit by the rainfall or perhaps from some of the heavier rainfall. But again, it's interacting with an environment as we speak and evolving from there. So even though this area of weak rotation that we're seeing right here is just south of the warning area, don't take that for granted that that's just weak rotation. It's not going to do anything. We've already seen multiple tornadoes spin up. As I mentioned before, we have 3 confirmed tornadoes. But again, I would not be surprised if more were confirmed as damage teams over the next couple of days go out and assess the situation. It wouldn't be surprising at all to find out that we have seen more. And you can see now, the latest scan here, a little bit straighter of a line. That's good. We want to see some straighter rotation out of here. That's an indication that, well, there isn't much rotation. Likely what we're seeing out of this is wind gusts from some very gusty winds that we have seen these thunderstorms produce. Thunderstorms that, again, have caused tornadoes in the area. So we still have the warning here. For the areas shaded in red, that's from the south side on northward through the city, and I believe that extends all the way up to Evanston. That tornado warning continues until 7:45. But this rotation right here, again. Yeah,
the stuff to the south.
Biggest threat. And Brandon, would be interesting to see, you showed earlier that outflow boundary. Yes. A lot of times these thunderstorms will produce a wind gust, and that wind gust acts as a cold front. Yeah, and that's where we can see thunderstorm activity firing up here. And so that's why you can, well, here's that gust front right here.
Yeah.
You can see it down there, but as it extends further north, it wouldn't be surprising to see more cells popping along the edge of that as this whole line snuck its way on through.
Great find there, Pete, because what you're looking at when we talk about a gust front, and again, I get into my oversimplification, a thunderstorm, when it collapses, think of you're in the kitchen, got a glass of milk, and you just dump it on the floor. What happens? The milk goes out in all different directions. And that's what happens with a thunderstorm when it collapses. It throws that cold, dense air out, and then it goes off in different directions. And that difference in density, the air is cooler and the molecules are tight together, it bumps into that unstable warm air and acts like a little wedge and gives it a little kick and helps it to start its vertical motion. And what Pete has pointed out brilliantly here is look along that outflow boundary. This came from those earlier thunderstorms that were north and west and is dragging through here, acting much like a cold front and causing like you'd put a wedge under a door, initiating that vertical motion. So here's where we stand. Let's widen out one more time and give you an idea. Okay, we just received that we had a warning here, a tornado warning canceled for Cook, but we don't know yet which one because we have a couple that are overlapping here. I would suspect the one to the south is the one that still remains active, and the one, well, we've seen one disappear there so far. We'll see what happens here. But if you're north in Wilmette and Evanston, it's over at this point. The only threat continues to be from the city of Chicago. And I understand, Pete, the Fire are playing in Soldier Field. I don't know what kind of a situation they were. Are they seeking shelter, or we're not sure?
Hopefully they are. I would like to think that they would, just from the perspective of, again, we haven't seen a lot of lightning strikes, but even one, when there's an outdoor venue like that, even one is too many. And
Allison Rosati just gave me the thumbs up from the anchor desk that they have gone inside. They're seeking shelter at Soldier Field, so they've done the right thing.
A very prudent move, indeed. Yeah, so we're still, here's the line of rotation that we've been continuing to keep an eye out for. Again, we do not have any more active warnings. That's the good news. You see this entire area, though, shaded in red. We are still under that tornado watch. They have dropped the counties well out to the west, but so far, Brant, we don't see any indication that we're going to see any of the counties that are currently under the warning dropped anytime soon. Perhaps Boone and into McHenry County, they have the best shot of seeing that warning, or that watch rather, being dropped. But here's the line of storms. This continues to trail its way on off to the east. It is producing a little bit of rotation. So far, it's been very broad-based. But given the history of what we've seen as far as the tornadic activity this evening, National Weather Service not taking any chances as far as dropping that watch, because that's a warning sign to you. Hey, they're taking this seriously. You need to take this seriously as well, because again, we've got a lot of reports of damage out there with some of the tornadoes that have touched down. And again, it wouldn't be surprising to find out that we have even more than just the 3 confirmed.
And Pete, we're going to see that that upper air support, that jet streak, is screaming eastward, and that's dragging this thing out into Lake Michigan. So we're seeing that trailing edge of that moisture that you're pointing out. All of this stuff here is going to drag more toward northwest Indiana. The question is, we saw a tremendous amount of shear, that directional change with height, in this area, but across northwest Indiana, we were looking earlier at the discussion from the Storm Prediction Center that showed a lot of shear there from 1 to 3 kilometers in the atmosphere. Not so much across northwest Indiana. So maybe the tornadic threat is waning a bit. Again, caveat, still keep your guard up. More showers and thunderstorms moving through, but look at the one thing we have. We don't have a lot of lightning. And we may have some damaging winds and certainly some rainfall. We're not seeing these storms just training and going over the same ground, so that flooding potential isn't what it was with the last couple of events we've had. And a quick description of why did this happen. We have an area low pressure that is parked up in Canada. Pete mentioned yesterday when we were talking, he goes, wow, this is like the polar vortex. What's the deal with this? And this center of low pressure is just sitting there, and it's not moving. And think of it like a tire spinning and then throwing off little chunks of mud. These little disturbances are like that around that huge circulation that's up in Canada. So is this the end of seeing these disturbances? Not yet, because that thing isn't moving yet. So day to day, as we move through the rest of the week and toward the weekend, still a chance we could see some strong thunderstorms. Whether they're tornadic or not, too early to tell. But the model guidance was uncanny. Last night at 10 o'clock, it was showing some of those rotation streaks. Throughout the day today, our storm team, we've been watching this thing. Every model run kept those rotation streaks in the forecast. And then you've seen what's happened. We've got confirmed damage, confirmed tornadoes, and we'll continue to monitor the situation and bring you the latest when you're right here on the NBC5 News coming up at 10 o'clock tonight. Again, no active warnings at this point, still underlying a tornado watch, valid until 10 o'clock. Some of the western counties have been dropped at this point. Alex and Allison are standing by in the studio. What a night
I don't think we've ever seen anything like this. So many tornadoes coming through and so many warnings to deal with. It's been very frightening.
Over the course of about 2 hours. Brant and Pete, thank you both so much.
Take a look at this.
Yeah,
That's South Elgin.
Video there.
Unbelievable.
We'll get more of the video in just a second. We're getting lots of reports coming in, and we hope you're collecting all of those videos and pictures safely after everything has gone through. We first want to toss now to Mike Lorber, who is in Storm Chaser 5. He's been on I-90 through most of the day out near Elgin. Mike, what have you seen?
We are minutes from South Elgin right now on Lake Street crossing Route 25. Want to call attention to a couple of things. I was sent a picture on Twitter, NBC Sky 5. You can go look at it at the Bowes Creek Country Club by Tim, who sent clear images of a tornado touching down on the grounds of the Bowes Creek Country Club. Our destination right now is on another address on Bowes Road, where there have been reports of a roof that's been torn off of a structure there. So a lot of damage done in Elgin. We have some specific addresses. One is 40 West 519 on Bowes Road, where there was a report of a roof off a building, and then at Bowes and Coron, which is near there as well, extensive damage where Elgin meets South Elgin. So as we've been talking about, there was a lot of damage there. Hodgkins is where the big touchdown was as well. I have a niece who was working in an industrial building in Hodgkins, sent several pictures of trees down, lies down, an overturned semi near I-55 from the impact of the storm as well. We can show video of all of that. So the two big areas with a lot of damage, Hodgkins, Summit, that area near I-55, and the area that we are now minutes from in Storm Chaser 5 here. We're actually following an ambulance that's been rolling out Route 20 here. We're crossing over the Fox River. We should be on location of this location at Bowes Road, where again there's reports of a roof that came off a building there at 40 West 519 Bowes Road, and we are minutes away from that location. So for now, we're on Route 20. We're crossing the Fox River. We'll update in a few minutes with some live images. I'm Mike Lorber in Storm Chaser 5.
All right, Mike Lorber, thanks so much for that. I know we are getting information in from our viewers and from our reporters who are now going out to assess the damage that has been caused by these tornadoes that have touched down in many areas. We want to show you now an image of a cloud rotation. This happened in Campton Hills, and if we can, this is in Kane County, about 11,000 people in this village. And as you can see, I know as we were looking on social media, a lot of people posting pictures similar to this. Hopefully they were in a safe place.
Allison,
but again, this is so
motion.
intimidating to see that.
Look at the motion of this, and this, of all of the tornado images that we've seen so far tonight, look at this. Look at, you can see some of the debris being lofted there as it's quickly moving. And again, this is one of those things where we hate to say don't take the picture, but you can't outrun something like this. You just need to stay away. Thank you very much for bringing us the picture, the image. But the concern is the debris that's lofted at hundreds of miles an hour around these rotations. Do you want to look at the rainbow? Look at the rainbow there in the foreground next to the tornado. Scary stuff.
Yeah, a little earlier tonight, this is just right near Naperville is where this is, if you're not familiar with Campton Hills.
I know we've reported nationally on storm systems like this in the South, but Brant, can you ever remember this happening in our neck of the woods? Well,
we described it there at the end of when we were doing the coverage a moment ago, that we're in a very strange pattern. Why are we like this? Hard to say. You know, we're transitioning from La Nina to El Nino. Some people think that that's what's happening, but the pattern is we've had, and again, all these images are previously recorded here. There are no active warnings at this point. We're in a pattern where early in the summer we had these blocking patterns where there was no progression of storm systems from west to east. And now we're in a weird pattern where there's a low that sits up in Canada that doesn't want to move. It's just sitting there, and it's throwing off these little impulses that come down towards Chicago. And this one, out of all of them for the past week, has been the strongest. And the question becomes, when does that pattern break down? It looks like it's with us all the way through the weekend into next week. So do we see something else like this? And we can't say that. But the uncanny part of this is last night when we were here at 10 o'clock, the new model run came in, and it showed those rotation tracks. And we put that on the air, and we said, hey, there's a chance of a tornado tomorrow. And then, you get up in the morning like I do, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, I'm looking at the models again, it's still there. Our storm team's on the phone, we're all talking to each other, hey, this looks like the real deal. And we marshal everybody together, and unfortunately, hopefully we don't see anyone seriously injured from this. Hopefully we got the warning out to everybody, but we're certainly going to experience some property damage.
And this is something that we even saw throughout the day yesterday, Brant, when you were bringing in the predictions from the Storm Prediction Center, those 3 colors that you mentioned, the slight, marginal, and then whatever's after that, the orange color.
Yeah.
It was slowly progressing from yesterday just being that marginal and then into the middle. And then today, the big change that we all of a sudden had is that shades of orange you showed earlier, showing eventually now what it ended up being this evening.
And you have to trust the science and the competency of the Storm Prediction Center in Norman, Oklahoma. Their task is to look for severe weather. And these are some of the most skilled meteorologists probably on the planet. They coordinate with our local Weather Service Forecast Office in Romeoville, and they do an incredible job. They're there to keep you safe. And tonight, not only the Storm Prediction Center, but the National Weather Service Forecast Office in Romeoville did an exceptional job.
Well, thanks to you and Pete for keeping everyone safe by keeping an eye on the radar. I know one of the more frightening moments was when you said there was a tornado that looked like a large rotation over Hodgkins. We are now getting images in from not only that rotation out of Hodgkins and the damage it did, but as it was heading towards Midway Airport.
Well, we saw it crawling up I-55 throughout the afternoon. As Brant, you smartly told everybody, stay off I-55, pull off. A good piece of advice that people may not know. Under one of those reinforced concrete viaducts, still not safe underneath there. And we saw it slowly crawl from the southwest suburbs, Hodgkins, Summit, Stickney, and we've now starting to see the debris and the damage reports start to come in. We've seen trees down. We saw a wall smashed in McCook, and we are sending crews fanning out across the area all over to see and try to get a look at some of this damage. We don't know anything about injuries or anything like that. It's still too early to say as we're taking another look at this video.
Yeah, this is from Hodgkins, and anyone who's been there to shop, this is the Menards big parking lot there, and obviously debris is the biggest problem. I know we always think it's the funnel cloud itself, but the debris that funnel cloud picks up and then projectiles into other things, and obviously a shopping cart there.
That was the shopping cart garage that's in the parking lot at Menards. Was lofted. You saw where it was wrapped around the back of one of those cars there. There it is again. It picked it up and put it up against the wall. So amazing wind gust.
And here we're getting some pictures. This is from Elgin earlier on today. You see the clear rotation right there, as we had multiple reports in Elgin of the horrible storms. Brant, take a look as this rolls through a subdivision here.
One of the things we saw, Pete and I had live on the air, and we'll go back and we'll find the images and share them, especially at 10 o'clock tonight, is we watched that circulation over O'Hare. And you could literally see some of the debris coming up from the potential damage at the warehouses on the west and southwest side of O'Hare. But you see something like this. And again, we see this, pictures on television. You see this in person. Don't mess around. Get to your safe place. Thank you for taking the pictures, but you put yourself in harm's way. Don't do that.
We do want to say that the ground stop has been lifted at the airports. O'Hare average delays right now, 33 minutes. They did have 387 cancellations. Midway Airport, 40-minute delays there now, and a 35 cancellations. But this video, obviously from earlier when that storm moved through the airport, this, I believe, is Midway Airport,
Yeah.
correct?
All the southwest planes there. It got really scary. That was one of the biggest rotations, Brant, I think that you were tracking earlier, was that, again, that system that just crawled eerily right along I-55 there to hit the southwest suburbs and the southwest side of the city as we're here looking at this video from Midway earlier.
One of the crazy things that Pete and I saw earlier was we were looking at the Western O'Hare camera pointed toward the runways at O'Hare. Before one of those thunderstorm cells came in, we saw a 737 landing, sneaking into the airport just in time.
Take a look at this video here from Stickney. Again, more damage. We are just getting images in from our viewers. We thank them for sharing what they are seeing on the ground. It's one thing to see it on the radar, Brant, but when you see what the aftermath is in real life, it's a powerful thing.
And one of my son's college roommates at Purdue, who lives, we call him Southside Steve.
I know Southside. Good guy.
Yeah, he's reporting near Countryside, and all the fire departments are out. They're out assessing damage. There is extensive damage in that part of the South Side. So we're just beginning to see the aftermath of what's been going on.
And of course, the National Weather Service will come out in the coming days, assess all the damage, give ratings to these tornadoes to see how big they are. We can only speculate with how this one was, but we know we have seen video confirmation, aside from the radar confirmation that Brant had earlier, of the multiple tornadoes just within the span of the last 2 hours in the area.
And I know, Brant, you always tell people to get the NBC Chicago app, put the weather alerts on. So important, especially when there are power outages. We do want to pass along to those who still have power or who are watching us on their phone. Cook County right now, more than 6,000 customers affected without power. DuPage County reporting only 258 outages, but Kane County, 1,586 customers affected there, and McHenry County also highly impacted with 1,317 customers affected. So power outages, keep that in mind. Always download that app on your phone.
And Allison, you mentioned power outages. We just happen to have a product where we can show you where the power outages are, how many customers, and we're affecting that. We'll get that up here in a moment. And again, we talk about safety. If you see a power line that's down, obviously don't cross it. Call 1-800-EDISON-1 in their service area in Northwest Indiana. It's NIPSCO. Okay, here's the latest information. These are customers reported without power. 1,000 up in McHenry County, 1,500 west into Kane County. Look at Cook County, 6,000 customers at this point. And this does a live tracking of how many customers have power outages. And this is uncanny the way it is accurate. So if you have a power outage, bear with the utilities as they try to repair what's been damaged by the winds.
And here's again video that we had seen near Midway. This is again from earlier today. Some of the rotation and the ominous clouds that crossed all the way through the southwest suburbs into the southwest side, causing that ground stop that has now been lifted at Midway. But a very scary scene, especially for the people who may have been driving on the Stevenson, may not have thought this was coming at them. If they were driving, weren't paying attention, listening to music, didn't have the right information, then all of a sudden come upon such an ominous cloud, and it just crawled right up through the city and causing everybody to take some shelter. We have reports of people who are taking shelter at O'Hare for the cloud that we saw there earlier, and then this storm at Midway.
We also had the Chicago Fire playing at Soldier Field tonight, and there are images of folks who were attending being sheltered in place inside near the colonnades, just to make sure that they were safe from this storm that eventually moved out onto the lake. And some of this storm, Brant, did move south, and we still are under a tornado watch in the northwest Indiana.
Yeah, the tornado watch is still valid at this point. It expires at 10 o'clock. We're not seeing any circulation here that warrants a warning at this point. One of the things we did to be proactive is we have a storm chaser. That is our vehicle that's equipped with a live image capability. We sent Mike Lorber out because there's no way to fly today in the helicopter. And we sent Mike out Interstate 90. And the idea was to put him on the back side of the storm, not be in front of it where you'd be in harm's way, but get through it before it became severe and then come back through. And I think that turned out to be a wise decision, because right now Mike is collecting all of the damage reports. And I don't know anyone that puts their ear to the ground better than Lorber.
Well, we have a great team of reporters out there. In fact, V. Wynn will be reporting tonight from the Willow Springs countryside area. Obviously, Hodgkin's one of the hardest hit areas, it appears, from the radar and some of the images that we're seeing. Everard Cassimy is going to be in McCook for us tonight. And of course, we will have Mike Lorber in Elgin, just assessing all of the damage and what people are facing now after the storms have passed.
And Allison, you brought up the Soldier Field example of, people may not have any idea what to do, or sometimes the staff may not have any idea what to do when severe weather comes in. It just depends on the situation you're in. Brant, you talk about it all the time, making a plan. The home plan is easy. That's the most simple that you explain and Pete explains all the time. It can get a little more tricky, especially if you're out and about. Fortunately, you might have the app on your phone or you get one of the National Weather Service alerts that was pinging us all night and making our phones go off. But to have some sort of an idea when you see severe weather getting close, because a Menards, for example, or another commercial building, not the best place to wait out one of those storms.
We want to point out that this video is from Willowbrook, one of our producers on her travels, getting this for us.
Cloud.
Yes. And what an incredible thing to see. And then, Brant, if you are driving down the road and you see something like this, like to your point, Alex, what should you do?
Not a house.
At this point, if you saw that, if you could determine the motion, stop, pull over, get out of the way. Don't try to outrun it. One of the bizarre things about tornadoes, where do you go if you've got one approaching? Get out of your car and lay down in the ditch and let that thing go by you. And why do you lay down in the ditch? Because the debris will pass over you. Different story when it's lightning. Never, ever lie down when it's lightning because the difference in potential, the electrical current between your head and your toes could electrocute you if a strike is nearby. So kind of conflicting information. You know, you see some people pull over, hit their flashers and sit under an overpass. Not a good idea, because if that tornado comes through there, you might wind up seeing those winds concentrated.
And
so this is Soldier Field.
Everybody trying to find some sort of shelter as that storm, the same storm that's made its way, I believe, Brant, that was moving from Willowbrook over to the south side of the city here as the fire were playing tonight, and everything had to be paused so people could get out to safety underneath the columns there. Just amazing.
Are you surprised that this storm held together as long as it did? Because sometimes they'll touch down, and I know Pete was even saying they can touch down, go back up, and come back down again.
The problem is we had a tremendous amount of shear or helicity. Some of the numbers, meters squared per second, normally, you know, we see maybe 100, 150. That kind of makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up. We're in the 4, the 5, the 600 range. That's how much shear was there. And again, we speak shear. What is that? That's, we had conflicting winds from the west and from the south. And as those two wind fields interacted with each other, they imparted spinning, and they spin up something called horizontal vorticity. So you see a horizontal rolling cloud. Now, along comes a thunderstorm, or along comes a jet streak aloft, and pulls that horizontal rotation vertically. And with that, you have a spinning vortex. And it can be a left turner or a right turner. And you wind up, so that's the dynamic of what we were dealing with tonight. Too much science? Raise your hand.
No, it's fascinating to learn about.
Yeah, we're grateful for science, keeping everybody safe tonight. We are getting more images in, too, to our newsroom. I know I live in the Burr Ridge western suburbs, and our Lauren Petty sharing some images of lots of trees down there. So I think we're going to see even more of that tonight as our reporters gather images with our photographers who are out there now talking to people and seeing for themselves the damage that was left by these storms.
And Allison and Alex, can we throw up the radar just for a moment here to give everyone in Northwest Indiana where they stand at this point? You guys can throw up Weather 6 if you want to. That'll give us an idea of what we're looking at here. You can see that red box is an active tornado watch valid till 10 o'clock. But look what's happening over on the other side of Lake Michigan. That same line of storms that impacted the northern suburbs has crossed the lake. That's how fast this is moving, and impacted everywhere from Dowagiac all the way up toward Grand Rapids. So those blue boxes are severe thunderstorm warnings, not tornado warnings on the other side of the lake. But you get the idea that the veracity of this thing is, or ferocity, I should say, is moving quickly across Lake Michigan. And once that line that we're being highlighted there from Joliet down toward Gary, once that slides to the east, we'll be completely in the clear. And you can see that the look at the tornado watch has been extended east of Chicago. So if you know someone that's in Kalamazoo, Jackson, moving eastward there, that tornado threat continues east of Chicago. To the west, it's the all clear. north and west of the city of Chicago, no more threats of severe weather. We'll keep an eye on what happens across northwest Indiana as that line drags through. And we've got some more pictures, do I understand, from Hodgkins?
Yeah, this is the damage in that Menards parking lot from earlier. And you're right, Brand, exactly right to point out this was the cart area that got blown over right onto these cars and trucks, smashing the windows, causing the carts to be blown all over, and even turning over, I think, a couple of trees in that lot. That's, I think, when we first saw it spin up, I believe earlier, was in Hodgkins, and then it slowly moved to the east as you're still taking more looks at the parking lot here.
And that was, Pete and I were looking at that. I can't recall a tornado signature in rotation in our equipment here that was as tight as what we saw there in Stickney. So that was
And these are images, again, of the damage that we're getting in from Stickney. And I'm sure a lot of people are also calling their insurance companies, trying to figure out next steps here as they find out what happened to their homes. But thank God people, I mean, we haven't gotten any reports yet, but that's always the best news, isn't it, if we can keep people safe.
And 2 pieces of good news I was going to say is, one, that we haven't gotten any reports of anybody being injured, and 2, Brant, that this all happened in the daytime. Because this can happen at any time, and then we're in real trouble if it's the middle of the night.
And you brought up a good point about the safety and, what do you do with your family? And we talk about that a lot to keep you safe. That's not just your personal family, the belongings, the insurance policies, all of that stuff that right now, if you had damage, you're scrambling to, where did I put the insurance policy? Who's my insurance agent? Who do I call? That sort of stuff. Have all those valuables, stored someplace in a secure way. You can put it in the cloud, on your phone, whatever you want to do. But be prepared. Be prepared in the eventuality something like this happens. And prescription drugs, if you're dependent on a prescription, make sure that you always have that little secret stash that you're prepared. And again, call me Safety Sam, but that's what we do.
Well, Brant, thank you very much. Again, a big thanks to Pete for helping us keep track of all this throughout the night. Again, 2.5 hours basically of continuous storm coverage as we watch these tornadoes come through. And
we thank you for joining us and staying with us tonight. We will have a complete wrap-up of our storm coverage for you on our news tonight at 10, and you can also get watches and warnings anytime by downloading that very convenient NBC Chicago app or going to NBCChicago.com.
We'll see you at 10 o'clock. Stay safe tonight.